Activision just released their first paper about their matchmaking, this one talking about ping. However, it reveals a lot of details about Call of Duty's matchmaking as a whole. Now, you may think that although ping has been a bigger issue in newer COD titles, with players experiencing worse ping the better they do and the more they play, and ping being wildly inconsistent, it's probably not nearly as big of a deal when compared to the actual matchmaking itself. Well, to my surprise when reading it, this article actually reveals a whole lot about Activision's practices in regards to their matchmaking, even outside of ping. There are some really important details given away in this particular article. This paper was promised back in January, and we're now receiving it in early April. It talks about everything ping related in regards to Call of Duty's matchmaking, but it also does lots of things we expected them to do, like try to make it look like the matchmaking is the best it can possibly be for everyone. And the paper also reveals some interesting terminology and statistics that make too much sense in this era of Call of Duty. I want to operate under one key assumption: the fact that it is very unlikely that a casual player is reading this paper. These white papers, as they call them, the in-depth research discussions about how the matchmaking works, are obviously directed towards the more passionate, higher skilled part of the community that is unsatisfied with the matchmaking. And of course, content creators. With this in mind, we have to note that every sentence being said here is them talking to players like us, the ones who look into the problems, have issues with the game, and are outspoken about them. That being said, judging how the last post about matchmaking went, which was riddled with logical fallacies, they're definitely going to try to put some stuff way over our heads. And to nobody's surprise, they absolutely do. Let's dive in. The design of Call of Duty matchmaking is driven by our goal to create the best experiences for our player community. We believe that getting matchmaking right for our players means they enjoy the multiplayer experience more, play longer, quit less, and have more fun. And that last part definitely sums it up nicely. Any company with a multiplayer game with public matchmaking has to make sure that whenever players queue up for matches, they are satisfied with their experience, and as a result, play the game longer. Players quitting less and having more fun is undoubtedly what sounds like a healthy ecosystem for a multiplayer video game in general. However, when we investigate the implications of this statement, which is the fact that Activision wants us to quit less and play longer, and we remember that they're a billion-dollar corporation with a history of not caring about the player experience, and that they'd rather advertise $80 and $100 cosmetics to casuals than fix the matchmaking or the anti-cheat, we get kind of a conundrum, which we're all probably familiar with. Activision will do anything to get players addicted, and they will do anything for player retention. Like a recent video I've made, even something like the ranked mode in Call of Duty is strictly designed for player retention and is not a viable competitive experience. When we talk about matchmaking that is truly satisfying to players and not aggravating, we normally point to a preference of connection-based matchmaking over everything. Put me in matches with the best connection to everyone else in the server and let me play with low latency. However, Activision's clear lack of care about ping and their tendency to weigh other factors like skill and engagement too heavily within the matchmaking instead of purely ping line up perfectly. When skill and other factors like player engagement are weighed too heavily, it can make exceptions for bad ping in order to throw players matches that fulfill the strict requirements, rather than just giving players the best low latency experience. Jumping to this last sentence here, overly competitive lobbies are definitely not fun. None of us better players mind competition, but when every single player in the lobby is our exact equal and everyone is playing like it's a tournament final in a public game, it absolutely crushes the experience that a player should be having. You can't just relax and play at a good level. You have to play to your maximum ability every single match to actually get kills, which is just stressful and not fun. That being said, the first statement in this paper doesn't really line up with how the game actually plays. Matchmaking is designed with the goal to create the best experiences for players. This statement is incredibly tone deaf. They know what's going on. No casual player is reading this article, as I've said before. They have to make this statement to save face, to make it seem like they're in it for the diehard players and not for the casuals that shamelessly shill out $80 for cosmetics. The reality is that lower skilled casual players are protected from better players because they're afraid that if worse players get beaten, they will quit the game. This is basic marketing 101. Cater to the majority. But in this case, the more highly skilled minority is getting tossed to the wind, and a big consequence of that is that if a casual player finds themselves improving, they too will be tossed to the wolves and never see an easy lobby again in their entire time playing the game. Here's the next quote. Thanks to the large number of data centers used around the world, 94% of Call of Duty players have a best data center ping of 50 milliseconds or lower. Now right here is where we start to get into some pretty dicey territory, when they start playing with semantics and using their words in just the right ways where it will go over people's heads. They're again stating facts that are a bit too obvious if you look at it really closely. This appears to state that players will play on 50 milliseconds of ping every game. time. However, this isn't what they're saying at all. They're only stating that a majority of players' best possible connection to their closest data center is 50 milliseconds at most. This doesn't account for a lot of factors, which they definitely don't want you to consider. For starters, how about the fact that your closest data center can easily be ignored if you're a higher level player, because your matchmaking requirements are stricter and therefore thins out your play options, rendering you much more likely to play on a server further away than your closest data center. Remember, they use the word best. Your best case scenario is playing on 50 milliseconds of ping or lower. This doesn't mean at all that you'll be getting this consistently. Ping is still very much sacrificed to give you the matches that you require algorithmically. This only states that the best possible connection that you individually can have to your closest data center is 50 milliseconds of ping. That's all they're saying. They're not talking about the game experience. They're not talking about your ping you experience while you're playing. It's purely your connection to the closest data center. Ping is still very much sacrificed to give you the matches that you require algorithmically. The best part is, they actually back this point up extensively themselves with the concept they call delta ping. Delta ping is a concept that is touched upon briefly, but its importance to the matchmaking isn't necessarily highlighted, but it's one of the most extremely important things that they've given us. Just like what we talked about, delta ping is the amount of ping that you sacrifice when moving from one data center to another because the match you're eligible to play in is only available on another data center. For example, if you have a 30 millisecond ping connection to the data center in Miami, which is your closest data center, and you have a 50 millisecond ping connection to the one at Atlanta, the one where your match is actually hosted, you're sacrificing 20 milliseconds of ping to swap servers to actually play that match. That 20 milliseconds of sacrifice is your delta ping, or the change in ping. It's the ping that is sacrificed in order to fulfill your strict matchmaking criteria. They state within this paper that they try to make sure that this difference, if you're forced to switch data centers due to limited matchmaking compatibility, is the least it can possibly be. Now notice they never say they prioritize ping. They only say that they prioritize delta ping, which means one thing. With their current matchmaking and how strict it is, they have to combine player pools from multiple data centers in order to fulfill everyone's requirements. But they say, oh no, we only make sure that we never screw you too much, only as little as possible to get you into this perfectly tailored match. Do you see what's going on here? Delta ping is supposed to sound like it's a good thing to prevent, and while it is, they never say they worry about actual ping or the round trip time from you to the server. Instead, they only say they prioritize giving you the lowest delta ping possible. They're focusing on making sure you sacrifice the lowest amount of ping possible to put you into the most engaging match, which means ping isn't king. If ping was truly king, like they claimed here within the first post, and they can do that because it's a colloquial and pop culture slang, not a business statement, then delta ping would barely exist as a concept because the majority of our matches wouldn't be bounced to other data centers. The only reason delta ping is a concern in the first place is because they need larger player pools to draw from because of how strict the matchmaking truly is. The more players, the more options for everyone. This would be a great thing if we weren't sacrificing tons of ping in order to get there. In the golden era of COD, people used to put their zip codes in their clan tag to see how close they were geographically to the people they were playing with. Nowadays, you're playing with people that are multiple states away across the region you're playing on, which never seemed to happen all that much in the original Call of Duty days. They're literally saying, we have to combine you into a larger pool of players because of how specific and strict your matchmaking has to be. But don't worry, we'll make sure that the ping you inevitably sacrifice is the lowest value it can possibly be. Ping is king. Yeah, no. Now, would you rather have that, or we're gonna give you the best connection possible every single game on your data center because ping is king? This statement is truly representing the ping is king framework, not the first one. What I find hilarious is that Fortnite has 100 players, and when I play Fortnite, I get under 30 ping, possibly under 20 ping every single match. 100 players. And then I get on Call of Duty, a game that on average has 12 players in a match, 1/10 of the amount Fortnite has, and I'm playing at above 50 millisecond ping, sometimes above 80 if I'm doing too well, and then on average, if I'm just getting on and there's no tailored matches yet, I'm playing between 40 to 50 ping every single game. Can somebody just explain why a game like Fortnite with 100 players in a lobby has 20 to 30 ping every single game, sometimes less, and Call of Duty has 12 players, and I'm playing anywhere from 40 to 100 ping every single match, and the better I do, the worse it gets. Absolutely outrageous. Ping is not king. And it's ironic because the company that created the terminology delta ping, meaning the ping that's sacrificed when you have to jump servers because your matchmaking is too strict, is the same company that owns the game with the most overbearing matchmaking to ever come into practice. Guys, it's right in front of our faces. They invented delta ping to make it sound like it was good. Ping is sacrificed because of eomm. It's right there. They're twisting their words yet again and tipping their hand as to what is going on. Delta ping plays a huge role in this paper, and we'll be breaking it down even more. But for now, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll link this paper down below, and let me know if you notice anything in it that I didn't catch. More videos on this coming soon. I'm Prime Pete. Take it easy.